Today I'd like to show you how to grow grass from seed with nearly 100% success. This was grown from seed. Everything back there on the parkway strip was grown from seed. In fact, I've grown grass from seed many different times over the years, and every single time this has worked. First of all, you have to have a prepared seed bed. You got to be able to see the dirt. So you rip everything off the ground and you make sure it's flat and ready for seed. If it's a small spot in the middle of existing grass, you have to do the same thing, but just to that localized area. One of the most important things you do is you do not put seed down on dry dirt. As you can see over here, everything is wet. I already watered it. Water your dirt before you put the seed down. Next, you're going to use a hard tine rake. This right here is a thatch rake, or you could do a regular hard tine garden rake. You need to scuff the ground up to fluff up the dirt. Ideally, you'll be fluffing up the top 1/4 to 1/2 inch of dirt. That's all it takes. Even better than using a hand rake like this is to use an electric scarifier. That's what I use nearly every single time, unless I'm doing a small localized spot in the middle of my grass. If it's a small spot, then you can get away with just using a hand trowel. Just kind of scuff it all up right in that little circle, the spot that needs extra seed. So once you've got your moistened dirt scuffed up and possibly fluffy, there's a handful of ways that you can flatten it back out. If you're using a hard tine garden rake, then use the back side of it and just push it around and make it nice and flat. Even better is to use a small or wide leveling rake. Not everybody owns these, but you can buy them very easily online and they are quite affordable. If you don't have either of these tools, no joke, there's nothing wrong with grabbing your broom and just sweeping it around until everything is flat. You don't want to compact it though. Next, you're going to measure out your grass seed. You're going to measure out just enough of your seed per 1,000 square feet to go onto your space. Some grass seeds will be 1 to 2 pounds for every 1,000 square feet. Some could be 9 to 10 pounds. Every grass seed is different. If you don't know how much grass seed to use, I've got a link in the description where I explain how much you use for whatever grass type you're putting down. You're going to place your grass seed into a little whirly-bird spinner to fling it all over your space, or you'll put it into a push rotary spreader or a drop spreader, depending on the size of the space. For me, I'm just going to grab it with my fingers and just toss it on the ground. If you got a small spot, you're just going to put it on the ground. At this point, all of the seed on the ground is spread out. Your seed might look more dense depending on what seed you are applying, but everything is dry. So at this point, I like to water everything again. Look, all of my dirt is already starting to dry out. I don't want the wind to blow the seed away. It doesn't take a lot of water to weight the seed down. Unless you're spreading seed in a gale force winds, it's going to stay there once it's wet. Most important thing is to never put too much water down at one point. Only just enough water to get everything moist. Never enough for the water to pool. With the seed on the ground and everything damp, next you come to the peat moss. This is the part that most people skip, and nobody should ever skip it. This is the part that makes sure that everything grows in uniformly and everything comes in the correct amount of time. Get peat moss. Each of these bags are 8 dry quarts. If you were to buy enough bags to get to somewhere around 96 dry quarts, then that would be 3.8 cubic feet of peat moss. You can buy 3.8 cubic feet of peat moss at local garden supply stores for about 40 bucks. I bought each one of these bags for 6. So essentially, I'm paying twice the price for this that you would get if you bought in bulk at a garden supply store. Regardless, 3.8 cubic feet of peat moss is going to cover about 750 square feet of land space, of lawn space. Calculate how much space you're covering with grass seed and buy the appropriate amount of peat moss. We're going to sprinkle this right on top of the seed. This is the most important part of the entire process. Now, when I do this, I get myself really dirty because I usually just grab it with my hand and just throw it all over the place. If I was seeding 5 to 10,000 square feet or more at a time, I would probably buy myself a peat moss spreader. But you don't need to do that for regular size spaces or small localized dead spots in your lawn. If you want to go the extra mile, you can put down a whole bunch of alfalfa meal on top of this with the peat moss. This probably first, then the peat moss. This works as a starter fertilizer. You don't even have to really measure it. Just do a strong, thick dusting with your hands or with your spreader. After getting peat moss on the top of the seed and perhaps the alfalfa meal starter fertilizer, then you keep it wet. Start wetting down your peat moss because everything is dry and you don't want the wind to blow it away. You'll also find that after some time has passed, the peat moss will settle onto the ground and you'll start seeing more seed. So we'll come back a little bit later once we can see what seed is still exposed and not covered up, and we'll add some more peat moss on top of that. The very first day that you put seed down, you need to come out here and water it a lot. The first day is the most important. If I were to walk away right now and come back tomorrow to water it again, most of this seed would come in very, very poorly next week. I water now, and then I walk away for about 30 minutes. And then I come back again and I add a little bit more peat moss onto the thinner spots. Most likely it's going to be here. I can already tell. And you'll sprinkle it over and over again that first day. As many times as you possibly can, but never long enough to see any kind of water pooling on the ground. Never, never have water pool on your seed bed. If you do this on a Saturday, when you're at home all day, you can probably come out here every 30 minutes for like 7 hours straight. And then next day, or the whole week after that, everything is way easier. Don't be afraid of getting dirty. You're going to be super dirty after you spread peat moss. I only spread peat moss on 150 square feet. So if I was doing 1,000 or 2,000, it would be everywhere. And honestly, it is everywhere. This is why we take showers. You getting it all wet? Look, it's still dry right here. Ah, you're doing good. Okay, that's enough water. It's turning to pool. You see how it's turning into a pool of water right there? We want to water it, but we don't want it to pool. Let me get a little bit over here. The most important watering session of the day for the entire time that you're trying to get your seed to germinate and turn into grass is at dusk. Right now, my sun is just about ready to go down. It's after 6 o'clock. Depending on the time of year, you're going to come out here the most important time. If you can only water one time every day, you water it right at the end of daylight. The reason for that is because the sun goes down and it doesn't beat down on the ground, and the water does not evaporate anywhere close to as fast at any other point during the day. The seed will stay moist all the way through the night, better than at any other time of the day. You're going to want to water as often as you can every single day. But if you can only do it one time, do it at dinner time, at dusk. Every grass seed is going to germinate and start growing at a different rate, at a different speed. This lawn space right here, this is Kentucky bluegrass. It took about 30 days for it to start looking dense. Over here in the main lawn, I've grown a lawn completely from scratch, annual ryegrass. It took about 10 days. As I said before, the buffalo grass over here takes about 60 days. to look just the way that it is right now. I've also grown lawn spaces that are predominantly perennial rye. Those take closer to 14 to 21 days to start looking like a real lawn. Bermuda grass is more in the 30 days. That's what you see right behind me right now. Everything is different, but the germination period and the watering procedure is exactly the same. It just happens at different durations, different intervals. The grass type that I'm putting in right now is going to germinate somewhere around day 6, and it's going to turn into a lawn just like the green that you see right next to my patch. That's going to take about 60 days. But there are other kinds of grass types that will grow in and look like a complete, perfect looking lawn in about 10 to 14 days. If you'd like to learn what type of grass and the exact process that I use to make a lawn from dirt into something that looks perfect in about 10 days, then watch the video right up here in the corner. Regardless though, no matter what grass seed you're putting down, you've got to water it appropriately during the germination period, during the baby grass period, and then eventually into the mature grass period. To learn more about watering that grass seed and how to evolve your watering strategy, watch the video up here.